Hi, welcome to Someone Else's Movie, the podcast where an actor, writer, director, or nebulous industry figure gives a little love to a movie they didn't make. I'm Norm Wilner, senior film writer for Now Magazine, and this is the other thing I do. My guest this week is Ryan Dillon, a comedian, actor, and writer you may know from Montreal's Just for Laughs, Toronto's JFL 42, or SiriusXM's Top Comic, where he was a finalist. He also did a thing for Kevin Hart's streaming site, LOL, and he'll be hosting the 2017 installment of the East Coast Comedy Review down at Harbourfront Centre in Toronto at 8 p.m. on Friday, July 14th. Ryan picked Up, the wonderful 2009 animated feature from veteran Pixar director Pete Docter about a widower who flies his house to Venezuela to fulfill a promise to his late wife. It's an unconventional pitch, to be sure, and on its face it doesn't really sound like the premise for a grand CGI blockbuster, but Pete Docter is a genius. And he spins a wonderful story out of it, opening with heartbreak and moving into something delightful and even awe-inspiring with a truly magnificent voice performance from Ed Asner as Carl Fredricksen, the accidental hero who discovers that it's never too late to have your first adventure, and if you're really lucky, you get to meet a talking dog. This is Someone Else's Movie.
Buddy, Up is one of my favorite movies of all time. I love it. I was always a Pixar fan, for one, since I was a kid. So I was born in 1990, so the 90s, I was a 90s kid, for sure. So I remember seeing the first Toy Story movie and seeing a full CGI movie, and I knew what I watched Reboot, and everything. But seeing Toy Story as a kid, I had the V8, I had a Buzz Lightyear toy, I had everything. I was Andy in my head. Oh my god, the idea of toys coming to life was just such connects to you, and just all of them, Bugs Life, with all of them. But I remember seeing Up, and I mean, everyone talks about the first 10 minutes of Up. Everyone knows that. It's the most emotional thing that's ever happened in your life in film, But I think to me, Up, the reason why I love Up the most out of all the Pixar movies, especially, is that it's just such a bizarre story, but that should not make sense and should not be successful, because it's if you imagine walking into a studio and pitching, an 80-year-old man pairs up with a kid, goes on an adventure in this country and fights on a blimp with these dogs that talk. Yeah. I'd be like, okay, all right, I think the Cartoon Network or Adult Swim's down the road. You can talk to those guys and make it serious. But just good storytelling. It's just such good storytelling, and it just makes you connect with all these characters, even the dog and the bird and everything. Doug, you just connect to all of them, and you somehow makes all these characters relatable, even though they shouldn't. I should not find something relatable in this 80-year-old man or this dog, but I know what it's like to be alone. I know what it's like to miss someone, and the kid, I know what it's like to be a loser, and you just, I don't know, Up just it just shows Pixar's strength in storytelling and filmmaking, that they can really just fully embrace being weird and different and not having to conform to a princess story or the hero's journey. They can just kind of make it what they want it to be, and just you're just on board, right? And just visually too, it's just the image of a house with all these balloons. It's just, there's some sense of adventure with that, and just when you see him as a kid, when his wife to be and stuff, and you remember doing that as a kid, pretending to be adventurers and this and that, Indiana Jones in your backyard. And I don't know, it just always, what year did it come out again?
2009.
2019 when it came out. I was in university, just started university, and I was an improviser. I wasn't a stand-up yet, but I was just an improv was always about good storytelling and stuff like that. And I loved Pixar movies for that. I remember seeing Up, just going this Up is just a giant improv long form.
Yeah, now that
you just
mention it,
kept going. You just said yes to everything.
Yeah.
This dog comes in and starts talking. Yep. Okay,
Yeah.
And then we just go with it.
And there are other dogs.
And now there are other dogs, and it's just and it just heightens perfectly, and it just, everyone just accepts. But the old man is obviously the point of view of the audience, because he's very what?
That's true.
And it's just you don't get it, but he still goes with it. He's just talking dog, and then he's all right, he just goes. And I don't know. I mean, I love all the other Pixar movies. Cars 2 gives me a headache, but
yeah, we won't speak.
We won't speak of Cars 2.
We won't speak of the Cars films,
or The Good Dinosaur, for that matter.
Well, that one's sort of okay.
That's the problem, is that it's okay.
Yeah,
it was just okay. And
it's funny. In my head, I don't even see it as a Pixar movie.
I don't either.
I shifted it off to the Walt Disney Studios animation section.
It feels more like a DreamWorks film when I think about it. The story has simple there's little touches that are Pixar moment, but just I don't know. It just felt. But yeah, The Good Dinosaur was bizarre watching, because it's just felt like they were really, you can tell there was like the storytelling, they were really trying to figure it out. The guy from that TV show, what was it called? It did 5 seasons of Friday nights on Fox.
Raising Hope.
Yeah, Raising Hope.
Lucas Neff.
Yeah, so he was supposed to voice the dinosaur. And then
he did. He did the entire performance.
He did the whole thing, and then they scrapped it to make him younger. And stuff. And I kind of get it too, because when that show just came out, that's how Pixar does it, right? They pick up good actors that are good, but they're not big, but they have like that show was a good show, and critics loved it. And I remember seeing Raising Hope, thought it was awesome. It was a Malcolm in the Middle for the next gen, but it was yeah, it's just like, but then like it got cut and they delayed, and it's like, well, and he hasn't done anything since, and it's just like
he's on Downward Dog now. Actually,
I've never seen Downward Dog.
It just started. It moves to Tuesdays, like today, when this thing drops.
Oh, like a summer show.
Yeah,
that's great.
He shot it.
Well, good for him, because I thought he was really funny in that show, and I was like, he deserves more. But Up, though, yeah, I think hands down, like, there's a lot of great Pixar films, but to me, Up just like, I don't know, it's so rewatchable, because I always feel like I get something different every time I see it, because it's just so bizarre. It's just such a bizarre friggin' story. But it's all rooted in just honest emotions and just like and in storytelling, it just agrees to the world around it and doesn't try and defy it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's not that T.J. Miller character or something like, what's this? What's going on? Yeah. Like that's calling out everything and making it's not self-aware. It just embraces the whimsical story of it all. And just him and the old guy and the kid are just two friggin' losers that are alone in this world, and they find each other, and there's just something very sweet about that. And, yeah. I love it.
I had never considered it as Pixar's weirdest movie, but I think you're right. Like,
it is.
Nothing that's come since.
There's like a sense of like all their other pitches. There's like a sense of like what's the word I'm looking for? Like okay, so like it's like
concept, that kind of thing?
Yeah, like toys that come to life when you're not in the room. Like that's a premise that I feel like, oh, that's so like, of course, you know what I mean? Like, right, that's such a good idea because it makes sense. Bugs, and then you do Bugs Life and you see like, you know, the worker ants being bullied, blah, blah. It's like, that makes sense in context of ants and this, that. And then you go on to this movie and then go on and forth. And then when you get to Up, and you know, oh, it's an old guy, blah, blah, and you're like, what? Yeah. And it's the first one, you're like, say that last pitch again?
Yeah. They're all otherwise easily digestible. Like, even Cars is still a world of Cars.
Yeah.
Or Monsters Incorporated, very simple. They scare
us for that.
Like, there's all
it's
that.
Such a like. It makes sense. It's like that's why.
Yeah,
it's like explains it, the pitch explains it.
Right. The Secret Lives of Blank, as somebody pointed out.
Yeah, The Secret Lives of Blank.
Whatever.
And then when you get into even their like WALL-E too, like, and again that's a pretty intense movie, especially the first 40 minutes because it's like the best Charlie Chaplin film he didn't make.
Yeah.
But again, there's like a robot that's designed to clean up, and you have this, you know, the age-old story of how we ruin the planet and we need to leave and we come back, and it's like, of course, it makes total sense. So what's your, if I had to ask you, because it's so funny, me being on this podcast was totally brought on just from arguing on Twitter for a brief second about the top what was it, the top since 2000?
Somebody was starting, it was the New York Times, right? They were trying to do the best Pixar films.
Oh, see, I didn't know that. I thought you were just starting the conversation.
Oh, I see.
But still, I just love that it started with you saying Ratatouille is the best Pixar film since 2000. That's what you said, I think.
I think so. I mean, I thought about it. And then the bit that I just came up with was that everything that anyone suggested was tied for second with. Because they're all great, right? I mean,
it's not like it's like one is all the way up here and one's down here. It's like minuscule. Like it's like a degree of what's better than the other.
Yeah, it's like a periodic table. They're just one off. There's not like there's no considered advantage.
And Ratatouille is amazing. Yeah. I love Ratatouille. And Patton Oswalt is perfectly cast as just this rat that's just trying to make sense of he just wants to cook and this and that. Like it's just it's so Patton Oswalt was perfect in it, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful film. Like it's very, they use much more softness in that film. I found like especially with like France and like all the food. Like it felt like nothing was really sharp. Everything had a softer, smooth feel to it, which was really interesting. I really liked it. In fact, everything was like a painting.
Yeah, and it leads you into that memory at the end, which is
exactly
this sort of gentle flow to the whole thing that then pays off with that incredible smack of clarity.
Yeah, and it's super funny, and it's again very honest. Like he just wants to make food and this and that, and it's a very great storytelling. Again, he just accepts that this rat is controlling him. But to me, I felt like Up was the better one because again, remember what we were saying? Like the toys can talk, and you're like, you get it, and then like a rat you know, you think a rat's bad, but it wants to be
creature that wants
to be a cook, and you're like, oh, of course, that makes sense. But then when you pitch up, you're just like, sorry, can you just pitch that again one more time? But definitely not going to disagree that I'm definitely going to agree that Ratatouille is amazing. But if I probably would put up just a bar above it.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as I said it too, I was suddenly kicking myself over The Incredibles, which, you know,
see, and when you brought that up,
perfect.
You brought up The Incredibles too, and I went, fuck, that's a really good one too.
Yeah,
that was like, and you know, looking back now, like when I watched The Incredibles again, I was like, that was 2004 or 2005?
Yeah, 2004.
2004. So I was 14 when that came out. So I was like, I was the prime target of that PG-13. Was it PG-13?
No, I think it was PG.
It's PG, yeah. Because I remember there being guns.
And there's a speech about how it's okay to kill.
Yeah.
Which is sort of great for Pixar.
Yeah.
And Brad Bird, who just, you know, couldn't not do that.
Oh, I know. Brad Bird's amazing. Oh, my God. Yeah, I just remember, Frank, that's such a good movie. And now, looking back, it was ahead of its time.
Yeah.
Because, like, especially with you couldn't expect this, you know, Iron Man wasn't out yet. The idea of...
Oh, yeah, no, the whole superhero renaissance thing hadn't even started.
No, this is like the era of Blade. like, and this movie...
Blade 3, yeah.
Blade 3. You remember Blade 3, the peak of cinema?
Oswald does, I'm sure.
Yes, yes, he does. Oh my God, him talking about that is the funniest thing.
Yeah. That's where The Incredibles emerges from, I think, because it's Brad Bird thinking, why won't anybody get the Fantastic Four right? Well, I'm just going to make it a family story, like a real, literal family story.
Yeah.
And that gives us... Like, that's,
I didn't even think about that.
Because that's what Pixar does, too.
Yeah.
They take a thing that you know, and they make the best possible version of it. Which, again, brings us to Up, where this is unprecedented.
Yeah.
It really... Like, maybe Finding Nemo... in terms of a narrative that you have never seen before, but Finding Nemo is still a lost kid story.
Yeah, it's still, so I agree with you there. It's definitely still a lost kid story, so you can see where it's something you can connect with of a story you've heard before.
Yeah, the mechanics are already
and again, and even in Up, there is the mechanic, too, of just how, being older, and he just, like, he had this plan to live, and he never got the chance with her, and now he's going to, do it now, like his kind of end-life crisis, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And it's like, you kind of, those mechanics, but for a kid, that's the thing that I always thought was really interesting about the movies. That I know a lot of, again, when that came out, I was a little older, but I had cousins that were younger than me that loved it. And, I don't know, they made it relatable to kids. An 80-year-old guy who missed out, or not missed out, but just didn't have that chance with someone to go do this big plan and the love of his life. And I don't know why, but that's still, like, I don't even know where I connect that to, but I was like, I get it. Like, I just, like, you want, like... I guess, like, as a young comedian at the time, or wanted the dream of being a comic, which I never thought I could possibly be, when that, and then I just went for it.
Yeah.
Thanks to Up. But no, just, like, the idea of just going for it, or not waiting, and stuff like that. Like, that, I think that's something that maybe young kids and you can't wrap your mind around till you're older, right? Because they think they're going to live forever.
Sure.
And they don't feel age yet, so they think they're invincible and indestructible, and everything's going to be fine, and they see whole life flash before their eyes in 10 minutes, all the tragedy and all the amazing and this and him losing someone, and then and making that relatable. And that's again why I think Up stands up so well for me, is that this bizarre story just had so many relatable things when it really shouldn't have. Like, none of them. I remember watching the first trailer and, like, even, like, the press releases and everyone being like, what is going on? Like, what is this movie about? And everyone's like, well, it's Pixar, and everyone thought it might be their first bomb because they were like, it's very weird and very confusing, but then it was a huge hit, and it was like one of their bigger hits. And yeah, it was just awesome.
I mean, I was wondering if kids could connect to it through Russell, just because...
Oh, for sure.
Like, he gets to go on an adventure, he gets to be not just... Like, it's a kid's fantasy because there's no real danger, and you get to be a hero, even though you're not actually accomplishing anything.
I felt connected to Russell because he was a scout, like an imitated scout thing.
You say Woodland Adventure?
Woodland Adventure, something like that. And I was in Air Cadets, which is, a military-funded Boy Scouts. I mean, it's not real military. I mean, they'll argue that it is, but... Sure. Yeah, I'm gonna have friends who were in cadets listen to that and give me some text messages. But I was in cadets because I wasn't, I didn't have very many friends growing up. I was bullied a lot, and especially in junior high. I had a hard time in junior high, and again, this came out in 2004? Up?
2009.
2009. Yeah, sorry. So this came out in 2009. I had a very hard junior high, and high school got a bit better, but junior high was very brutal. In Newfoundland, I'm from Newfoundland, so junior high is grades 7, 8, 9. 12 to 13, 13 to 14, 14 to 15, which is just brutal. And I had a really hard time, so I was in cadets because I just needed something to make friends in and stuff like that. And I remember at first having a hard time with that, so there's all these activities and goals, like he has the badges, but like for us it was like rank and getting your pilot's license and your glider pilot's license. So I did all those things, and I met a lot of friends through it and stuff like that. But I knew what it was like to be like in a program like that, just trying to figure out who you want to be and what you want to do, and just trying to find a purpose. And seeing that kid, and I just remember being like, I remember going door to door at things, and I remember doing all that, and then like going to like wondering if someone's gonna come to your your honorary, like remember when you give them the pin and stuff like that. Like my aunt, I got my glider pilot's license when I was 16, and my aunt flew in from Nova Scotia because she got her license. I got my license like 20 years after she did, so she gave me my wings on the parade. Oh, that's nice. And I remember like it was just like because she got me into cadets, and she's like my second mom, and my mom was there too and stuff. But like for her to give me the wings was a big deal, and so when he puts the little pin, I remember just being like, oh, I remember that. Like I was like, it's totally a cool moment, and having someone come and support and appreciate all the work you've done and stuff like that. So yeah, I definitely for kids, for Russell for sure. But for the old man, it was just also, I just remember being like, yeah, you got to do things. Like if you want to do something, do it. Don't wait, or else it'll be too late, and then you won't get your chance. And that's like, especially someone who works in the arts and comedy and stuff, it's like that's always on your back. Yeah. Like you got to go out and do it. You got to do this, Mike. You got to do this. So like, I don't know. And I feel like anybody in any world can think about that and what they want to do in life and be like, I don't want to waste my time, and I don't want to push it back, and just take a risk and stuff like that. So like, it's a big connecting story for something about a talking dog, an old man, a small boy getting in a house filled with balloons, and going to Venezuela, and being attacked by talking dogs.
Yes.
And somehow it worked.
We need to talk about the talking dogs because there's something. I mean, I knew I loved Up pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Like that first 10 minutes, as my wife is sobbing next to me in the theater at a 10 a.m. press screening at Yorkdale, surrounded by children and friends. We're just weeping.
Yeah.
And finally, I mean, the structure of it is incredible because it gives you this heartbreaking descent into like absolute loneliness and despair, and the idea that Carl maybe doesn't want to make it back from this adventure that he's giving himself, and that there's a desperation.
Yeah.
The way the film moves, the way its pacing works is really something. Because watching it again, I realized that there is this prologue where you have this opening sequence, which, if it had stopped after 10 minutes, would have been one of the best movies of 2009. Oh,
yeah.
And then you have this weird, sad, slow first act where everything that happens for a perfectly understandable emotional reason, dramatically.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he assaults somebody.
Yeah.
And there's that character gets a moment to sort of reel back and look at the blood on his hand, and we get to feel his horror, and we get to see Carl from his point of view, which is something, again, Pixar's great at doing this, or just pulling outside its story and showing you what it looks like. I mean, in Finding Nemo, it's sort of a joke when you see the fish doing fish things from a distance.
Yeah.
In the human world. But Up spends all this time becoming real.
Yeah.
Even though it's highly stylized and impossible.
Yeah.
And it's kind of making a case for itself as, like, animation has to be used this way. You couldn't tell the story in live action because it would be ridiculous. You would be saying, balloons, how?
Yeah.
And then, finally, after, 45 minutes of this, you get Doug. And it's just pure joy.
Yeah.
It's just... It's like letting you know that it's okay to love again. It's this wonderful character that shows up is the second perfect expression of a dog in cinema after Triplets of Belleville, where you had Bruno, this amazing animated dog that was a dog and a character, and then you get Doug, who is a dog and a character and can talk. And can talk in a very specific dog way, which is absolutely magnificent.
Yeah, they really nailed the voice of what we all think maybe a dog is thinking.
Yeah.
Like, it's just this simple little... It's like each word is like a bark itself. Because it's just like, I love Boot. I love you.
I just met you. I love you. Yeah.
Yeah, there's just something... The whimsicalness of that character is just so perfect. But I agree. It's so funny how, like, they do pull these real moments. I'd like to talk more about that moment, because I remember seeing that. And
sure.
There was a little... Like, that was pretty quick little scene where he hits the guy. So in Up, when
they're trying to
he wants to sell his house,
forcibly remove him from his home.
Right, they're building this friggin' mall around him, or a condo. It's really a Toronto story, but it's like, yeah, it's like, I'm not moving, and because his life is here, and this is all he knows. Mm-hmm. And when he hits him,
and because it's unstated, he wants to die there.
Yeah,
like, that's the other thing too that's so important. Yeah. His despair is, it's not only is it palpable, but it's a narrative tool. It's part of the storytelling.
Yeah, what was his wife's name? Ellie?
Ellie.
Ellie, yeah. Like that. Ellie is the house. Like the house is Ellie. So him wanting to leave. So the idea of someone taking the last bit of Ellie away from him. There's these contractors who want to buy his house and get him out. So when he hits him in the head, as like it was just like a gut reaction. Like it wasn't like he was really going to strike him. It just was, because it's like a kerfuffle. Like it kind of just happens, and then you see like the switch in Carl's face. Like he goofed. Like he knows he made a mistake. And I think that relates to kids a lot too, because especially, and anybody, it doesn't actually matter kids, but like we've all had things where we went a little too far. When it's like when your brother and sister, like it's like always the joke of like you're fighting and then you hit one too hard, like, oh, don't tell mom, like, you know, you both say don't tell mom because you know how much trouble you'll both get in. But it's that moment of like, oh no, like, you know, we've all pushed too hard or this and that, and like as a kid, and you know, you learn not to do that. And like when he did it, like and even like not the audience, like the people, the witnesses just kind of like, oh dude, that guy like hit that, and the blood too, because you don't see blood in Pixar movies. So I remember seeing that, and I remember even being 19 being like, oh, whoa, this is like, I mean, I already just saw a woman who can't have a kid like 10 minutes ago. So that was pretty intense, but I was like, wow, that kid, he hit him really hard. And that was when you knew, oh, he's gonna lose his house, you know, or that's gonna get the ball rolling. That's the inciting incident of like, now this movie's gonna start happening because he needs to get this house out of here and stuff like that. But I just remember that moment happening in that film, and even just being like, whoa, frig, like everyone's done something like that, and like you are so sorry because you didn't mean that, but he kind of did, because he did really want to get the hell out of my house and stuff like that. Yeah, but
everybody's right to a degree.
Yeah.
Which then continues on into the self-justification of Munson at the end, and all the sort of megalomaniacal things that happen in the third act that are ludicrous, again, and completely disproportionate to the story we've been watching, because somehow this tiny little sad movie has turned into a film with an airborne 3D dogfight with literal dogs in it. Yeah,
I keep forgetting the dogs are in the little planes too and stuff like that. It's so silly.
Which is, and again, kind of reflects in a different way. Yeah, maybe this is the story told by a crazy old man. Yeah. Like, this is what Carl will tell people when he comes home, and no one will believe him for a second.
No, of course. If my old uncle or whatever told me this story, I was like, okay, we can go lie down now. This is Big Fish 2 happening right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, the dogs.
But the dogs are, well, this is the thing that...
That's Christopher Plummer does the voice of the bad guy, right? Yeah. What's the bad guy's name again? It was...
Munson, isn't it?
Munson, yeah. And he, the dogs.
The Howard Hughes-like figure who disappeared decades earlier.
Yeah, because they showed the little short film at the movie theater. Yeah. It's like, this week in news. Like,
because he inspires Carl and Ellie.
Yeah.
In a really strange way. Yeah. And this also underlines that old, you should never meet your heroes, because they're crazy old men in South America.
Yeah. And that gets pretty grim, too, when they're, like, in the museum, you see the bones, and he realizes, like... Yeah, because what is he searching for again? He was searching for something.
He wanted the bird too, wasn't it?
It was the bird. That's right.
The first reason he started it.
Yes, and then no one believed him, and this and that, and then that's why he was like shunned or something and disappeared, and no one knew what happened. And then they have the bird,
and they found Kevin, and no one else did.
That's right. I just watched this the other night again. I don't know why I can't remember.
Well, but it's a Fantasia. You're slipping in and out of it.
I am slipping in and out of things.
But the use of again, here is a movie released in 2009 with Christopher Plummer and Ed Asner, and it's a huge hit. I mean, even that sounds insane. Yeah, that it made.
Remember that Ed Asner and Chris Plum film that made over $300 million in the box office, and you're like, what?
Where they fought in the air and
You know what? Another interesting choice about the dogs too, I really enjoyed, was the alpha dog having the squeaky voice with the broken thing. Yeah, that's just perfect Pixar humor. Like that's like the contrast. Like I love contrast humor like that, where you just have someone in a high status, but you lower them by, but just also just committing, like he just would say things and the other dogs would snigger, and just
the fact that everybody else is aware of it. Yeah,
it was very Leslie Nielsen, like he just deadpan says it, but there's so much bizarreness around him. But in this voice, it's the voice.
And I do love the bit with the translation collar. I would like it if you stop doing that. Yeah. That sets up the slow realization for me anyway that Alpha is actually speaking German being translated into English because he's a Doberman.
Because he's a Doberman, that's right.
But he's actually speaking with the structure, with the construction of German language, where it's very formal and extremely complex.
That's interesting. That must be very interesting to do in post when because they hire voice actors for every country and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So to translate it and direct it in a sense where they had to have like that in Spanish, like he had to say it in German but in Spanish and like every other. I'm like, oh man, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah,
I always forget about that about animated movies that they have voice actors. Because I look at it as, oh yeah, Ed Asner is the old man, of course, blah, 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 it's perfect casting. But in, like, India, it's like, oh, Raj, it's like perfect casting. And you're like, oh, like, it's just different worlds out there seeing the movies in different point of views in different ways.
Like, Xavier Dolan is on the French track for Inside Out.
Oh, really?
I think he plays Fear.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so fun. See, I can't picture anybody but Bill Hader doing Fear.
Right.
But now there's people in his country going, I can't picture anybody else. Like, who the hell's Bill Hader?
Yeah, he's a big forehead. I don't get it.
Yeah. Inside Out is another... again, I think the mechanics, like we said about, like, it definitely makes more sense to start, like, if you're in your head, there was a control of all your feelings.
Yeah,
like,
sure.
It's like, I get that as a pitch to me, like, okay. Whereas Up, again, you're always like, what?
Yeah.
But, so when you tweeted, my ranking I gave you the top 3 since 2000 was Up, and then in second place I had Wall-E, and then I had Inside Out. Those are my 3,
It would be hard to argue against any of that.
Yeah. I think out of all the ones that, in terms of most fun, though, is The Incredibles. I have the most fun watching that one, because it's just, like, what's his name as Syndrome?
Jason Lee.
Jason Lee. Like, he just is perfect. And now they're making a second one.
Yeah, and I know that's what's going to happen with everything, because as soon as Disney actually took over Pixar, everything got a sequel. Mm-hmm. And so far, they've been pretty solid. I can't really even complain about Monsters University or...
Yeah, I rewatched Monsters University recently.
Yeah, it holds up.
It actually is better on the second time, because the first time I saw it, I think, because I was so in the other world of the emotional stakes of... it was much more of an emotional film. Well, this was much more of a fun film. Mm-hmm. And I needed to kind of let go of the idea that it wasn't going to have, like, the highest stakes in the world. But I thought Monsters University had the best and hardest lesson for a kid to learn, or anybody to learn, is... You may want to be this, but you can't. Like, you can't.
You may not get to do what you want.
You may not get to do what you want, and man, that's a brutal thing to accept sometimes.
And it is the opposite of every other single family movie.
Oh my god, yeah, you can do whatever you want and be whatever, and then they do at the end. And he was just like, no, you can't. Now he still works in that world and this and that, but it's like it reminds me of there's a couple of comedy producers I know that I think went through that, where they started off as stand-ups. And then they realize, like, their dream might have been to stand-ups, but now they just produce, and they're successful at it, and they're doing well, and they're having fun. Mm-hmm. But they're like, oh, I'm not a stand-up. I have a friend of mine who's like that. But yeah, that's Monsters University, like, I think because it embraces it being a college film, and it's more fun, and, it got great reviews, but it wasn't, like, the top tier or, of Academy Award idea thing. Yeah. But, like, that, out of all the Pixar movies, that one has the most brutal lesson to learn in life that, you're probably not going to do it. Like, you're not designed for it, or you're just not good enough, and that's just... but that's not a bad thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, Finding Dory is, speaking of sequels that take it somewhere.
Really dark. My god, yeah.
Finding Dory watching that film, I just slowly came around, yep, someone at Pixar has a special needs kid. That's what this is about.
Oh, yeah.
This is about being the parent of a child with special needs.
Yeah.
Even more so than... showing us really quickly the absolute hell it would have been to be Dory.
Oh, yeah.
And how she loses everything and she never knows anything, and there's the sense of terror behind every line reading, which I thought DeGeneres absolutely nailed. Yeah, she's so good as Dory, and young, and just, like, knows the voice so well, and because I remember seeing Finding Nemo and just thinking, oh, she's hilarious, like, perfect character. And that's one of the few sequels where the side character became the main character and it worked. Like, like, we're talking about Pirates of the Caribbean, and all of a sudden it's, like, about Jack Sparrow, and you're like, oh, God, no. Yeah. But this, like, I don't know if I'd agree with if that Dory would have thought it was hell, because all she knows is her own life. No, she doesn't know it. No, we get to see it as outsiders. We as people going, like, because we know our lives, and we can't fathom the idea of having that difficulty and stuff like that. But even the way that Finding Dory opens, and the same way Finding Nemo opened, I mean, those are horror movies. Oh, God, yeah. Parent, like, your kid going missing. I can't speak, but I can only fathom the idea. I mean, like, I don't have kids, but I mean, for God's sakes, if
my mom went missing, I'd be like, I'd puke, like I'd be freaking out.
But the opening of Nemo has, the mother being killed and
that's
that
right.
which you don't see, and all the children dying except for one. It's really horrible.
Yeah, it's really, really like, man, they're really good at getting you in the first few minutes. Like, oh Jesus, and then you're hooked on the characters because you connect with them emotionally.
I mean, I think Up is still the most powerful in terms of wreaking its devastation. Although, again, Wall-E, when he turns the light off at the end of that first movement, that's, again, 27 minutes of just heartbreaking perfection.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, Wall-E was so good.
They're all good. I mean,
well, now let's talk about Cars 2.
Well, okay. The Cars movies are an abomination unto man, and they should not...
I'll give Cars 1... I'll give Cars 1 a pass, because... it's not great. Cars 1 is not great by any means. But, like, I see...
It's Doc Hollywood.
It is Doc Hollywood with Cars. It absolutely is. It's not... again, the mechanics of the story, right? Like, okay, we get it. Like, car who gets the old town, teaches them the ways, and it's not all about speed, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
I get that. I think a lot of the problem with that movie is that that was John Lasseter when he, like, that was around the time when, like, they paired up when Disney bought Pixar, right?
Yeah,
when the first Cars came out.
It was his dream project,
and that was his dream project, and it's such an American movie. You know what I mean? It's such it's very American. The idea of like winning and this and being on top and it's like you have this sponsorship world and stuff.
Yeah, and it has this nostalgia for simply driving.
Yeah, and the Route 66, Route 60 on the highway.
It's
like
not
that.
Something that comes out of any other country.
No,
Canada. We just don't have a tradition of driving places for hours and days.
No, we have tradition of overplaying for fights to the East Coast. Like that's what we do.
I've heard this.
Yeah, did you guys see that spin-off Planes? Yeah, where they're trying to get to Newfoundland for under $400? Oh my god, it's insane. The Canadian version's so much different. Cars 1, I remember seeing it going, this is good. Like, I remember laughing. I thought Mater was kind of funny, and there was stuff, but then they're whatever $3 billion in revenue they got in merchandise sales.
Yeah, it is their most successful. I was really stunned when I learned this. I figured it would have been Toy Story, but yeah, the Cars films are their most successful.
Because it's so easy to merchandise worldwide, because it's the concept. Because like if you look at if you look at Woody, he's an American cowboy, so there's only so far you can get that worldwide. And Buzz Lightyear is space, which is way more universal, but still, it's like he's an American space hero.
And the peripheral characters don't have the same marketability.
Yeah, it's
cars
not.
Cars.
Cars are everywhere. Cars are everywhere, and the idea of cars being alive and this and that, like, it's such a simple, like, everyone gets it, and you can just, and it translates well. It's still very an American movie in terms of story, but like the idea. So yeah, when I found out they made $10 billion in merchandise, I was like, what? I was like, these movies are commercials. Oh my god! Of course they're making Cars 3. Which looks
June
very
16th.
grim.
I haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen the trailer even.
Oh, well...
Grim how?
The first teaser... buddy, you're not
far off. Do the people come back to take the cars away?
So in the first teaser that came out, it was just like a 1-minute teaser. You just see, like, you hear, like, vroom, 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 and it's, like, close-ups of a NASCAR race, right? Okay. And then you just hear, like, the voiceover, and here comes Lightning McQueen. It's very dramatic, and even the colors are washed out. It's more gray. Okay. And all of a sudden, you see the camera angle, you just hear a crash, and then you see, like, it all black, it fades up, and it's just, like, it's like the cars are all passing, like this way, and you just see Lightning McQueen, like, demolished in the air going slow, and, like, him breathing, and then it goes to black, and it's, like, Cars 3, and I remember everyone being like, what? Like, this is, like, because Cars 2 is a slapstick spy movie with Mater for reasons beyond me, except for toys. But this was, like, what is happening? There was never an emotional stakes to earn it being this grim. But the new trailers are all about how he should retire. He's too old, and there's young people coming. And it's his last shot to be number one at the title because he's getting up there and this and that, which is very interesting to try and sell as a kids movie because it's like he's old, like like retirement and this and that. Like that's not going to connect in anybody's head. But anyway, the trailers make it look so heavy. And Mater's not in any of the commercials. He's in one commercial, one part for like a second. Okay. But they're really staying away from all the stuff all the silliness and making it like about the stakes of just like what's the word? Your history, but like legacy? Your legacy. It's all about legacy. Is this one? Again, American story.
From the first description of the teaser, I was kind of hoping they're going to go like a $6 million ka-chow thing somehow.
Yeah, no, this is very much like Armie Hammer plays the young hotshot, like that's coming to beat him and stuff like that.
That's a good call.
And he's just basically relearning racing. It's kind of like a rehash of kind of like the first one, which is kind of good because if they went some way with the second one again, God, that second one was so bad.
Yeah.
Cars 2 is so...
It broke my heart just because you could feel...
Because it's the first real bomb by... not bomb.
No, it made money,
but
it was...
It made money, but it was the first,
creative,
like, Rotten Tomatoes below 60%. Like, it was like, critics were like, this is not good.
Yeah,
and
but you can feel Lasseter going, no, this is fine. Like, you can,
absolutely.
This is what I want. He made his dream project.
He made his dream, and you can see what happens when you have to... That's why the Pixar has a brain trust, and they all work on it together, where... I felt like that was very John Lasseter's film.
Yeah.
And there's there's little moments in it that are kind of okay. Like the idea of if anything, it made me want to see a Pixar spy movie.
Like a proper one.
Yeah, a proper one in some way, in the vein of maybe like... But because The Incredibles would probably be too close in terms of some...
Well, I mean, The Incredibles is basically... It hits all the notes of a Bond movie without having a Bond character.
Yeah.
So great.
So, like...
superhero fortresses and
they don't need they'd be treading too many familiar ground. But
now I just want a Pixar Bond movie.
I'd love a Pixar.
It could even be live action.
I want Brad Bird to direct a Bond film.
He could do it.
Yeah,
I mean, he kind of already did.
Yeah.
Goat Patrol.
Yeah, he's really that was really good. I'd love to see him do Bond. I'd love to see any of the Pixar guys do Bond except John Lasseter.
Kind of tried.
The first American Bond.
I mean, they kept trying to do that. To reinvent spy... American filmmakers kept trying to do spy movies, and just... it's like Eastwood's Iger sanction. You don't want to talk about those results.
No, God, no.
But as far as, working within genre and twisting things, Pixar can do literally anything at this point. I will...
Yeah, they got coming up the Coco one, the one that's like the Day of the Dead festival.
Right, that's coming out
this November, I believe. Yeah, where it's about a kid who uses music and now his dad. It kind of... What was that? There was a Guillermo del Toro movie that came out not so long ago.
The Book of the Dead.
Book of the Dead. It's kind of in the vein of that, where like he can go into the ghost world with his music, though. So, which is interesting, because this is the closest two movies have come together for Pixar that are similar. Because they had a movie called Newt that got canceled. Mm-hmm. So Newt was a movie... They had promo art and everything. It was too much like the movie Rio. So Rio is about the birds, and they're the last of their kind, so they need to mate. And if not, then they die off, and that's what Rio's about. Well, Pixar at the same time is developing Newt, which is about a blue hen newt. Okay. And there's a female blue hen newt, and they're in a lab, and then they need to mate, but they hate each other. And that's the crux of the story, the hook of the story. And then they go on an adventure trying to get back to the lab or something like that. And I saw all the promo art. I looked it all up because I was curious, but they full out canceled the project because it was the exact same. They were saying it was too much like this Rio movie that came out. And Rio I didn't even see, and it did fine. It got a sequel, but
it's okay. I mean, they're fine.
Yeah, they're fine. But I remember just seeing the concept art for Newton, going, "Oh, this looks that's such a that's a Pixar movie I'd watch for sure." Yeah. So when I got canceled, I'm like, "Nah, shit." I mean, I don't know.
Still sounds like a better idea than Rio.
Yeah, I'd still love to see. I'd love for them to dust off the ideas for Newt and maybe put a different spin on it or something. But like, I don't know. It just felt like an interesting love story that's not a love story. You know what I mean? But
yeah. Now I'm trying to figure out what genre it would have played with. Is it like a His Girl Friday kind of situation? Is it a screwball love and hate
Pixar's Annie Hall.
I mean, I'd still watch it.
Yeah. Now they got, I don't remember what else. So they got Coco coming out now, and then they got Toy Story 4, and they got the announced Incredibles 2.
Right.
There's another original out. I can't remember what it was. But they're doing one original for every on and off year. The original sequel. That's their plan now.
I guess it's better than sequel.
It is. I think that it's Pixar and Disney going, listen, we still want to make original films. You guys still want to make money. Here's the deal. Let us be creative this year. The next year, you guys get your creative sequel and
one
stuff
for
like
us,
that.
one for you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the Disney thing. It's not enough to own every franchise and rule the box office. They have to continue to pump out things that people already know. It's not just them. I mean, this is the month where Alien Covenant opened, and that's Fox and Ridley Scott humping that legacy.
Did you see that yet?
Oh yeah, it's not good. But then Disney has literally everything else: Marvel and Star Wars and the Pixar stuff, which all get sequels now, and they're remaking their original animated classics in these live action abominations that make $1 billion.
Did you see Beauty and the Beast?
Oh yeah.
Oh buddy, That was the most hollow movie I'd ever seen.
How do you make the same film but 45 minutes longer and without any of the charm?
Yeah, like there's only 2 or 3 moments. The worst part about that movie is that the only moments I enjoyed were where it was just like cut for cut from the original. Like when you see the Castellini play the song, I was like, "Ooh, shivers!" And then the rest of the movie happened, and I was like, "No, don't do this."
Yeah, I'm just my greatest fear is that we start getting live action Pixar's, that Disney reaches that far back.
That's when I'll probably stop.
Yeah,
I'll just stop. I'll just be like, "No, I'm not seeing live action Toy Story. I'm not seeing live action."
They're just steps away, and of course with CG characters that they would have to do, it would just bring it right back. And then when I saw, there was in the 90s there was the theatrical version of Beauty and the Beast. Mm-hmm. They did the Broadway thing. They did a run in Toronto, and I was invited to the first night or the previews or something.
Was it good?
No, it was awful. It was 3 hours long. It was excruciating. We left after the first half. Like we didn't come back. Wow. But what was amazing was there was a child there. In the mezzanine, probably above us. Mm-hmm. And every time it deviated from the film text, because the first act alone was longer than the movie, every time they added something or padded it out, the kid would start shouting, "That didn't happen, that's not in there." And that's how I felt about this film, too. Yeah. It's just like, why? You have a movie called Beauty and the Beast. It's perfect and wonderful, and just stop it. Why do that?
Here's what I think the problem is that if you're gonna you can't remake the film shot for shot and then shoehorn in things to make it longer. You have to completely be different from the beginning.
Right, break with it and come back.
Yeah, like it has to be its own. You can loosely be the story, but it should be like a different movie.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think The Jungle Book works, but that's what they did.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not. It's actually an adaptation that reveals just how awkward these things are because it shoehorns in music where there hasn't been any. Like, there are no songs in the first hour, and then they have a scene where Baloo and Mowgli sing the bare necessities, and it's just this weird little interlude where a photorealistic bear is telling a child, well, you don't have a song, everyone should have a song, this is my song, and he sings the bare necessities.
And same with Christopher Walken's monkey.
Well, but then that's a full-on production number, and it makes no sense.
Yeah.
At the end of the film, plus it's terrifying. I mean, you have Let's do the musical number, but first let's have an homage to Apocalypse Now, and quote all these things that children will not understand, and then have the monkey singing and dancing while he tries to kill the child.
Yeah,
and Shere Khan straight up murders Mowgli's dad, and it's when they're photorealistic animals, it's just not right.
I know. I really liked The Jungle Book. I was a big fan of it, but I did find that I remember having those problems. Like I remember thinking the music you can't go halfway.
Yeah.
Like, it felt like they were trying to do an attempt of old Hollywood of because Jon Favreau directed it. And he's a big movie guy, so I picture maybe in his head his justification might have been, in old movies, sometimes a music number will break out and it's just the one or whatever.
Like a self-aware kind of usage.
Yeah, but it was just because it did feel very, very weird. Mm-hmm. And that's why it makes me hesitant towards The Lion King, where Jon Favreau's directing The Lion King, they're doing the same thing. And I'm like, are you going to do just 1 or 2 songs? Because they're going to do...
I think the songs in that one are so much more important.
They are so important. I think you got to do them all.
They're like the iconography of the movie is the musical numbers too.
Yeah, I mean, they'll definitely do Hakuna Matata.
Yeah.
And then...
Just Can't Wait to Be King, you kind of have to keep that.
Yeah, you got to have those two. And I'd be upset if they cut Scar's song with the hyenas and stuff, and all the green gas and this and that. Oh God,
how are they going to handle a Triumph of the Will references in a live action kind of movie? That's just weird.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it'll be interesting. I think it's going to make too much money at the box office.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, if Beauty and the Beast made $1 billion, this one, there's no stopping it.
I honestly think the Lion King remake is going to crack $2 billion.
Jesus.
I honestly think so. I think it'll make...
You may be right.
I think it'll make $600+ million at the North American box office, and I think it's going to make a 2.2 worldwide. That's my guess right now.
So it'll never stop.
Yeah,
they'll never stop them. I mean, the only one I think I really like, the only one I can imagine watching again is the Branagh Cinderella, because it does tell its own story. I did not see the remake of the Cinderella. No songs, abandons all that stuff, tells the story more or less beat for beat, but finds a context that works, and the characters are fun, and the prince has a little more to do, and it's... That's what I heard, that the Cinderella one was actually pretty good, but I heard that, again, I think the reason why it wasn't a big, big hit
is because it was so much like the original that it was just like. So now they're trying to learn from that and go, oh, we need to add more stuff, and then now that's making the movies worse. You know what I mean? So
they lean into making it more like the original, like Beauty and the Beast does.
Yeah.
Where they've replicated costumes and they've kept the production design.
Yeah.
But they're just shooting it with people.
Yeah.
Cinderella follows the narrative, but it's new dialogue and it's new character. Like, it's not the same, which is actually really good.
Well, that's good.
Or there's Maleficent, the prequel, where just
which is its own. That's its own.
Yeah,
thing,
at least they tried something different. And
that's what I do appreciate about Maleficent. And wasn't there another one was like in the vein of Maleficent?
There must have been.
What was the other film that came out where it was like a remake, but it wasn't quite not Alice in Wonderland?
Well, the Alice films are different, right?
They are
follow
different.
The same narratives.
Yeah, they are different because it's like she's been there before. It's almost like they're sequels.
They are kind of, yeah.
Yeah. I saw Through the Looking Glass this year.
Oh, God,
So me and my girlfriend or me and my friends were like, if it's like there's nothing to do or it's raining and like we're just not feeling going out, but like we just want to have a few drinks or get a little stoned and watch something just ridiculous. There's like this balance of bad movies where it's like you got to find something that's. I like to watch big bombs. I love to watch John Carter. I love to just because I'm just always like, what happened? Like that's my biggest thing when big $200 million tentpoles bomb and they get bad reviews. Those are the ones I want to see the most because I'm like, what happened? And I remember watching and sometimes I like them and sometimes I'm upset of how bad they are. But I'm like, but Alice Through the Looking Glass, I was like, oh god, this sucks so much.
Yeah.
I don't even know what the moral of the story is. I don't know what they're trying to tell me.
Yeah, the whole point of the story is that
my parents are dead. Well, I'll go back in time, fix it. Like, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Like,
she's explicitly told that the thing won't work.
Yeah.
She's told repeatedly in the first 20 minutes, this quest will fail.
Alice is the most annoying, dumb character in that movie. Because, I thought, and Sacha Baron Cohen's character, the Master Time, he's actually a good guy. He's like, yeah, no, what are you doing? Like, you're going to fuck everything up. And she does. Yeah. And it's just like, God damn it, Alice, get the hell out of here. You're not doing anything helpful.
That's what happens when you have a release date and no script.
Yeah.
Or no anything.
Yeah.
Like you have Johnny Depp's commitment and this window of time to shoot it.
You know what I'm thinking about now, though? I'm thinking about what you said about Pixar movies being remade live action.
I'm so sorry.
And I'm so nervous. I'm thinking of casting and everything in my head now and stuff. Like, who would play... Because let's say...
Tom Hanks' Woody would make sense because he'd be old. Like, just as an old toy, you can maybe get away with that.
For sure, but they won't do that.
No, he would never do that.
So I'm just trying to picture who would actually play Woody and Buzz and Bo Peep and everything as, live action.
I want to see Nathan Fillion play Buzz Lightyear. I think he can do it. I think he's got the right...
Oh, man,
he's got the right bearing.
Oh, my God. That's actually pretty good.
I would watch that. Although, if you want to go younger, then... I don't know. I don't think you should go younger. Like, he should look like somebody who was kind of an astronaut.
Buzz Lightyear is, in my head, he was 30s, 40s. Like, he's an older astronaut. Yeah. Like, he's been through it and he's got stories to tell.
Yeah, he's a veteran.
I mean, it's so funny because he did the voice of Buzz Lightyear in the TV cartoon.
Did he really?
No. I'm getting to it. But Patrick Warburton.
Oh.
He did the voice of Buzz Lightyear.
Warburton's great.
Yeah, and I was like, and he did the Tick.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can kind of see Patrick Warburton as Buzz Lightyear in it, because he's that dumbfounded, like thinking he's a real spaceman. Mm-hmm. But in terms of Woody, I don't know who you'd get to play like a 30, because I think Woody's a little younger than Buzz. In my head, I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but I don't know who you'd have play him.
Sam Rockwell. Is he a little too old now?
No, but Sam Rockwell actually would be pretty friggin' perfect.
I mean, I would put Sam Rockwell in anything.
Yeah, but you know what makes me think of him as perfect? I think of Iron Man 2 when Whiplash is tearing things apart. He's like, oh great, he's just like that. And I'm like, that's Woody. Like, you're a toy. I can see Sam Rockwell going, you're a toy. Like, that actually would be pretty good. Right. I'd hate the movie, but I would hate that it got remade with live action. But now I'm thinking about Up.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think Up is live action proof.
Yeah.
Because short of a CG, I mean, you'd have to have so much CG anyway.
Yeah.
For the dogs and for Kevin
and Ed Asner could play the old man, Carl.
Sure.
Yeah, but I mean, if we don't do that,
like the voice performance is fine. I think the physical. I saw him on Broadway a couple of years ago, and I don't know that he's physically up to walking around on sets at this point.
Well, in terms of who can play old right now, that would, if they had to cast it tomorrow and it was coming out in May 31st, 2019.
I would. You know who I would want? He's dead, unfortunately. Walter Matthau.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I just, he's been dead forever.
Oh! Ed O'Neill.
Ed O'Neill would be great.
Ed O'Neill would be great.
Yes, he would.
He would, because he almost is that in Modern Family.
Yeah, and he's got Pixar cred from Finding Dory.
Yes. Oh, Ed O'Neill would be a good... Yeah.
J.K. Simmons.
J.K. Simmons would be a great old man for Up, actually.
You might not believe the turn. You might not want him to warm up.
No.
Because J.K. Simmons is always more fun when he's pissed off.
But J.K. Simmons is so tall and jacked.
He's too vital, yeah.
He's too... Yeah, now I'm trying to think of... But
Ed O'Neill's a good choice.
Ed O'Neill's got the... Like, he looks like... you know? But you know what's so funny? Ed O'Neill and what's the kid in Modern Family is his son?
Holy shit, yes, it's Russell.
He would have been perfect as...
That's a pairing. That's a perfect pairing.
Yeah, especially young him. Now he's a little too old.
Little Manny, yeah.
Yeah, but Little Man... Oh my god, that would have been... That's the movie.
Well, we can do it digitally. But
Yeah.
of course, we still have to... You don't need it if it's digital.
Yeah.
It's just...
But you know what? If they want to switch it up too, they should do... what if they did a little girl instead? Like a Girl Scout.
Work. That could totally work.
Yeah.
Imagine the pushback from Disney Pixar fanboys who believe it's ruining their childhood.
Oh, shut up. Oh, God, that stuff irks the hell out of me. But, I mean, sure, you get upset, but I'd be like, oh, for fuck's sake.
This is the thing that I hold very dear to my identity, and my identity is so fragile.
Yeah,
I can't conceive of
the
it.
small boy and Up shall be the same. It's the same. But you know who would be really good? Again, too old now, but Abigail... Breslin? Yeah. I could see her, especially her Little Miss Sunshine, like that.
Yeah. I was thinking of Una Lawrence, who is in everything right now. She was Jake Gyllenhaal's daughter in Southpaw, and she was somebody else's daughter in a movie that also opened that. Like she looks like the kid from Despicable Me. Mm. She looks exactly like
she's
that.
perfect.
She'd be fine.
Bill Hader as Doug.
Bill Hader could work. Like, just like in a dog suit.
Yeah. In a dog suit.
Instead of a motion capture performance, just Bill Hader in a dog suit.
And in terms of the villain, it would be Christoph Waltz.
Yeah. Well, actually, it's almost too on the nose, isn't it?
I guess, yeah.
He's the villain. He's the
villain in everything. But just because, like, even physically, like the one he played, but I could see Christoph Waltz playing
the kind of beetle-browed thing going.
He does, yeah. But if I had to pick, if he's too typecast as that. Another great choice probably be for the villain. I mean, I don't know if he's too young for it or something like that, but you almost picture like a Mads Mikkelsen kind of thing.
I was going to say, just go totally against type and do the gender switch there. Make it Cate Blanchett.
Yeah.
Somebody who can be really intimidating and really severe.
Did you see the Thor trailer?
No, not yet.
Oh, yeah, she plays Hela in that, and she looks awesome. She looks so terrifying and so good.
I loved her so much. This is gonna the only thing I like about Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is Cate Blanchett. She knows exactly what she's doing.
Yeah.
And she is giving a great performance in a terrible movie that no one will ever give her credit for.
You know who else would be good if you keep with really old age? Because he's supposed to be older than Carl, right?
That's right, yeah, because he inspired Carl.
He inspired Carl, so even though he looks younger, but like because he's an adventurer, he probably kept younger and stuff. But if you want to do this, still do the gender swap and still have... But Helen Mirren.
Helen Mirren
would be a great like villain.
Ian McKellen. Although, again, he's done that. Like, he's done Calculating Bad Guy.
Yeah, but that's a lot. Actually, there's way more people...
Helen Mirren would be great. Helen Mirren's great now. All right, so now that we've cast this, we must burn it so it never happens.
Yeah. And then last minute, I'd say what's his name? Kevin Hart as the dog, the German dog who's...
Alfred?
Yeah. So just because I feel like that's like he'd play like a silly, trying to be serious and no one taking him seriously, that pretty much is Kevin Hart. But I don't know if I want Kevin Hart to have the role.
Yeah, he would bring, he's a box office gold, Kevin Hart.
But if you went like pro, I'd get like Bobby Monahan from SNL. Yeah.
So the final question on the podcast is always the same, which is what of Up, if anything, have you kind of riffed on or borrowed or stolen or incorporated into your own creative DNA?
Oh, man. I would say... I think going back to like what we said about it's almost like a glorified improv scene where you just accept everything.
Yeah.
I think it's so funny because interesting enough, with my stand-up, I've been doing stand-up since 2012, 13. Like I did the comedy writing program at Humber and I moved here from Newfoundland in 2011 thinking I was going to be on the main stage at Second City. Like that's where my head was.
Everybody thinks that.
Everyone thinks that. Like I wanted to be a sketch person, an improv person. I loved doing it. Then I started doing stand-up and I loved it way more and I took it too seriously and I trying too hard to be like edgy or whatever. Like I'm a very silly, light. That's who I am, and I kind of tried too hard to be like everybody else. And only recently have I just embraced just being like acting sillier on stage and talking about sillier things and finding weird angles in it and just talking about birds and just like hilarious, silly things I think about, but also just really heightening those things and going in ways that are just kind of different and just accepting those realities and not overthinking it and just going with the flow of it. Right. And I feel like a movie like Up makes me think of that, of just like, just because it doesn't make sense on paper doesn't mean you can't make it work. You know what I mean? And there's a story to tell and everything. And also, Up, it really made me feel like that everything has a story. You just got to know how to tell it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I did I did the Toronto Fringe last year, and it was all storytelling. And a lot of my stand up has always been storytelling. And I feel like Up is one of the best examples of amazing storytelling because it makes you connect to an old man, a kid, a talking dog, a bird, and you feel so emotionally connected to these characters, and you're with them on their story that like you can tell a story really about anything as long as it's great storytelling when you connect to the characters. And I feel like Up is the perfect example of that.
Okay. Yeah. I just want to watch it again now.
I do too. Yeah. But if I didn't have to go catch up with some friends at 6 o'clock for Deckers, I would totally watch Up in this little theater right now. Oh my god. That'd be amazing. Also, I'll say this about Up. A side note, my favorite moment in 3D is with Up, actually. Because that came out in 2009.
It was their first 3D film?
It was their first 3D film, and it made me... I didn't see very many 3D films at that time. I think when did Avatar come out?
Same year, 2009. Same year.
Yeah. So this was like when 3D was exploding. I saw Avatar, and I remember being like, holy crap, this is a crazy big world and a terrible movie. But Up... When they're on the blimp, and you do the cartoonish, like one's holding the feet, one's holding the like they're making the chain.
Yeah.
I remember when they did the camera up, the point of view of looking down, and 3D was always about in your face, and but this was not in your face. This showed depth, and it showed how high they were. Man, I remember seeing that, and I'd be like, oh, like I have a fear of heights. That scene, I still get like, oh, I gotta sit down. Like I was just like, Jesus Christ, this is too much for me right now. 19-year-old me is very nervous. But yeah, man, if I could take anything from Up though, like great storytelling, just like great storytelling and making you connect with characters you should not connect with, and that's like what Pixar does best. Mm-hmm. So for sure.
My thanks to Ryan Dillon, who'll be doing comical things around Toronto here and there, and hosting the 2017 installment of the East Coast Comedy Review down at Harbourfront Centre on Friday, July 14th at 8 p.m. You want to catch that. It's a pretty good lineup. You can find Ryan on Twitter at The Ryan Dillon, all one word, and you can find Up on Blu-ray and DVD from Walt Disney Home Entertainment. It's also available on iTunes and Google Play, but, I say this every week. The Blu-ray is spectacular. That's the way to see it. As always, you can find me on Twitter at Norm Wilner and elsewhere on the internet at nowtoronto.com. You can also find this podcast on Twitter at Semcast, S-E-M-Cast, and on the web at someoneelsesmovie.com. If you want to leave a review on iTunes, that would be very kind of you. You are clever and smart. Thanks for listening.
I'm afraid you're just too darn loud.